When the Torah is read publicly, the person reading it chants it with a very specific melody. One of the sages in the Talmud tells us that God himself taught that melody to Moses, to Moshe, when he gave Moshe the Torah up on the mountain. That melody was passed down generation to generation until the sages eventually wrote it down, the written versions of the Torah, using a series of cantillation symbols, which we commonly refer to as the trup. Those symbols make it easier to learn and to remember the melody. Perhaps the most famous of those cantillation symbols is the shalshelet. Very rarely appears in the Torah, but there's one of them in this week's Torah portion. It hauntingly shows the hesitation, the indecision, the difficulty faced by Yosef in rebuffing the daily amorous advances of his master's wife. A very difficult test for him that he ended up passing. But there's a less well-known series of cantillation symbols that's equally interesting in this week's Torah portion. There's a meeting between Judah and Tamar. And there are 3 consecutive passages: Bereshis, Genesis 38, 16, 17, and 18. And each one of those passages has a he said and a she said. He says something to her and she says something back. Interestingly, each one of those and he said, Vayomer, has a different cantillation symbol. But equally interesting, each one of the and she saids has a matching symbol. So in the first passage, there's a he said, its own cantillation symbol, but an identical cantillation symbol in the she said. Next passage, a different one for he said, but a matching one for she said. And the third passage again, a third different one for he said, but a matching one for she said. Here, take a look inside. The matching symbols above the 2 words in the first passage are called a pashta. The matching symbols in the second passage are a zakif gadol. And in the third passage, the matching symbols are a revi'i. What's the point of these symbols? The different but matching melody for each passage? To teach us that the way you speak to someone else is the way they'll speak to you. The way you treat someone else is the way they'll treat you. We are meant to work on our interpersonal relationships, all the different ones that we have, in order to improve our relationship with God. Because it works the same way with him. The way we treat him is the way he'll treat us. The closer we are to him, the closer he'll be to us. And the more distant from him, the more distant, unfortunately, he'll be. There's a famous phrase, it takes 2 to tango, teaching us that if someone starts up with you and you look the other way and you don't respond, you can avoid a fight. But someone once taught me an even better phrase, it takes 1 to tango. If you don't start up in the first place, there won't be a fight, or at least it'll be far less likely. And what a great lesson for Chanukah. It's no coincidence that we get this lesson now as we're starting to celebrate the holiday, because now we're going to get together, hopefully, in person, or if not this year, at least on Zoom, with our extended family members. Old frictions or rivalries might bubble up. Someone else might grab that jelly donut upon which you were feasting your eyes, or you might be jealous of someone else's gift. Get over it. Don't start up, and if someone else does, don't respond. And before I finish, I have a very special guest who's been watching me film this video, one of my grandchildren. He's been sitting patiently and quietly, but I promised him that at the end, he could deliver a message to all of you. So here he is.
Happy Hanukkah.